I didn't expect Albania to become one of the most surprising trips we've ever done. Because in 1 week, it went from Cold War bunkers to medieval cities to the Albanian Alps and then the beaches people call the Maldives of Europe. But the real surprise was when we reached the famous Blue Eye in Theth. It is honestly so beautifully crystal clear, and then we found out that we were at the wrong one. And we only got there after driving roads that were so thin and sketchy, I genuinely thought we might have to turn back. So if you're planning an Albanian road trip, I'll show you exactly where to go, what to skip, and one mistake you can't make at the Blue Eye. We landed in Tirana from London. We only had 1 day, so we did the best thing that you can do when you're short on time. A walking tour. So this is actually one of the bunkers that they used to protect the whole communist area in Tirana. So this is actually a piece of the Berlin Wall. So this is actually one of my favorite stories of Tirana. So right behind me over here is the Russian embassy. Since they started the war with Ukraine, the mayor of Tirana has changed the road to literally translate to free Ukraine. Every time the Russian embassy writes a letter or has letters sent to them, it is sent to the Russian embassy, free Ukraine, and it's a great way of, countries showing solidarity with Ukraine who are being attacked. The only other thing that I've just been told is that the mayor of Tirana has been imprisoned for corruption. So the world is not black and white, it's full of greys. So this is Tirana's main square, which is actually kind of cool. So you've got the old mosque and the clock tower, which reminds me so heavily of Big Ben. But actually what I'm really drawn to is this guy over here. Can you see? That's actually a face. It represents one of Albanian's princes who protected the country from the Ottomans back in the day. And it's his face looking over his shoulder. So make sure you spot that when you come, it's really cool. You can go on a free walking tour, they'll explain all about it. Tirana's kind of cool, it's quite unique. I kind of am starting to think of it as the place that has like very weird and cool buildings. Obviously the one that I'm standing on right now is the pyramid, of course. Then we went somewhere you could walk past 100 times and never notice. This is Bunk Art 2, and it's not just a bunker. It was built for the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the people who controlled what you said, who you met, and what you were even allowed to think. From the street, it looks like nothing, but inside, it's actually quite heavy. It was designed to survive a chemical attack or even a nuclear attack, and now it exposes the system. Next on the agenda is actually one of my favorites. This show is called Albanian Nights. But first, we found a little medieval-style restaurant just around the corner from our hotel. The short rib was amazing and definitely recommended.
We then got into the craziness of Albanian nights.
I expected something touristy, but it was chaos. Costumes, dancing, comedy, and even a cultural story mixed in. And of course, a little Reiki to finish. The next morning, we left the capital and stepped straight into what seemed like a postcard.
This is the stunningly beautiful city of Berat, the city of 1,000 windows.
So Berat is known as the city of 1,000 windows because these Ottoman houses were built, stacked up on a hillside, and when you look up, it feels like the entire city is staring back at you.
So this is from the late Ottoman Empire.
Back in the 17th century, windows were generally rare and quite small on houses, and Berat had dozens and dozens of them everywhere. And thanks to its heritage, it's now a World UNESCO Heritage Site.
So it's super unique, 1,000 windows, and it overlooks the river. It is incredible. And obviously at the top is the castle.
And here's what I didn't expect. Inside the castle walls, it's not just ruins. People actually still live up here. You're walking past people's front doors and gardens, and then boom, views across the river and the 1,000 windows below.
There are still 200 people that live here today in some of the old Byzantine houses, which is actually really cool. So you've got the Byzantine architecture, you've got Middle Ages architecture, and then you've got the modern architecture. Very unique, definitely recommend. And let's not forget, it has some of the best views of the city.
And that night, we did something completely different again. We went to Alpeta Winery outside of Berat, tucked into the hills. This winery is so incredible, it was even listed as one of the Times' greatest places in the world. The moment we arrived, it felt less like a wine tour and more like being welcomed into somebody's home. The hospitality in Albania is honestly next level. We toured the winery, then did a tasting with dinner, and honestly, if you can, come in the daylight too, because the views are meant to be incredible.
This is dangerous. Very good.
If you're near Berat, Alpeta is definitely a must. The next day was a big one, heading north into the mountains to Theth. And this is where Albania stops being easy travel and starts being an adventure, because the further you go, the thinner the roads get. Some sections honestly feel like one wrong move and you're reversing for 10 minutes to find a passing spot. But the trade-off is pretty worth it. The scenery is spectacular. We broke up the drive with a stop at this incredible restaurant, a great place to try classic Albanian dishes before you disappear into the Alps. Theth is a remote mountain village in the Albanian Alps, inside a protected national park. It's quiet, dramatic, and honestly, it doesn't feel overcrowded or overdone. It is definitely still a bit rustic, and there are cabins, huge restaurants, and to be honest, not a lot else. So a couple of quick tips before you go. Fill up with petrol and bring snacks if you're picky, because it is remote and options are limited. We did a shorter hike to Krujë waterfall, and one of the most iconic shots is the village church right in the middle of this huge valley surrounded by peaks. But one of the main reasons people come here is because of the incredible hikes and of course the blue eye, and we nearly messed it up.
So that woman, so it's either worth it or not worth it. We can't work out which. Fingers crossed.
And when we got there, it wasn't as blue as the pictures had made out. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was nice, but it wasn't unreal blue waters. After a few hours, we suddenly realized we were in the wrong spot. When you reach the first pools of water, keep walking. You need to cross the bridge. It is not that far, but the real blue eye is basically 5 minutes around the corner. And when we finally got there, I genuinely couldn't process the color. The water looks so blue, it looks like it's edited. It's almost as if someone has increased the saturation up in real life. One of the most beautiful things we saw in the entire country. After the Alps, we headed back down towards the beaches, but first we needed to make a pit stop in Krujë.
So if you're in Albania, I would 1000% recommend going to Krujë, which is honestly this cute little market town. It's basically one of the most quaint places you'll ever visit.
You walk down into the old bazaar. There are cobbled streets everywhere, wooden shop fronts, handmade carpets, jewelries and souvenirs. And then at the very top is Krujë Castle. It's small, but it's powerful and the views are unreal. Now is the big question. Albania's beaches. Some people call it the Maldives of Europe, and honestly, this can actually be true, but only if you go to the right spot and if you go at the right time of year. If you come in peak summer, some of the places are heaving. That Maldives feeling disappears. We tried 4 different spots: Sarandë, Ksamil, Lalëz Beach, and Vlorë. Sarandë feels like a classic European beach holiday. It's giving Spain vibes. It's affordable, lively, it has good beach clubs and good food, but it is slightly rough around the edges. It's fun, but it's definitely not luxury. Ksamil, on the other hand, has beautiful water, but it does get very busy in summer. The water is undoubtedly stunning, but the experience can be chaotic. If you want party vibes and don't mind the crowds, then go for it. But if you want calm Maldives energy, then you need to go in the off season. Lalëz Beach surprised us. It has modern apartments, a huge beach, and it is way more relaxed. If you want an easy, quiet beach holiday, then this is the best bet. This is definitely somewhere which I would come back to. Vlorë has a huge beach. There's nice restaurants and a lot happening here. So come here if you want similar vibes to Sarandë, but something that's maybe a little bit closer to Tirana. If you want somewhere else in Europe that's a bit different, a little bit more affordable and packed with variety, then Albania needs to be on your list. And if you're planning this trip, remember 2 big things. Theth is worth the drive, even if the roads are sketchy. And for the Maldives beaches, avoid peak summer if you want the magic. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and happy traveling.